Okay, so welcome to everybody. So we're studying the Mitil Rebbe's Sharai Hayichud with the commentary of Reb Hillel of Paritch. And we're going to be doing a review. So we're on page 9 of the English text and page 1 of the Hebrew text. And I just want to apologize for my voice, but I'm recovering from flu. So let's just take a moment to, if you want to close your eyes and just focus and let go of everything that happened today and just let yourself be present here to this process, to what we're doing here. And perhaps to just set an intention for yourself. Why are you coming to learn this? What is your motivation for learning this? Now, one of the things that I got a comment back from one of the participants last week, and she said, you know, I'm not very intellectual, and I don't feel so comfortable with intellectual ideas. But she felt comforted by the fact that Mila had said that the process is intellectual, and certainly the beginning of the process is intellectual. But the end goal is not intellectual. There's something that we're heading for that is beyond intellect, but we have to go through the intellect. So if that was a concern for any of you. Okay, so what I want to do is we'll do a quick review of everything that we learned last week. I'm going to sorry, let me just share my screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so you should be a little bit familiar with this from last time. This was the first paragraph, and the first paragraph was just an introduction that's setting the intention really for us, for why we're learning this. And Reb Hillel started by giving us the Rambam, the first mitzvah, which is to know that there's a God that created everything, and to know that Hashem is one. And as it says, Shema Yisrael. And then it's obvious from that fact that Shema doesn't just mean hear, like, hear Hashem is one, like listen up. It doesn't mean that. It means the intention is Havana, is understanding. Now, what does it mean that you have to understand? How do you understand that Hashem is one? So Reb Hillel says that basically you have to do it through hitbonenut, because the process of understanding is called hitbonenut. But what is hitbonenut? So we don't know. That's what he's going to teach us. So then I was thinking, what is he really saying in this introductory paragraph? And this is what I came up with. If you want to know Hashem and experience that there's nothing but Hashem, Hashem is one, then you have to do it bonanut. It's pretty compelling, right? So now we want to do it bonanut, but we don't know what it is. So then, so Reb Hillel says, okay, so now I'm going to tell you what is hitbonenut. But in order to do that, in order to to tell you what his hitbonenut is, I first have to explain to you some details about the three parts of the brain: Chochmah, Bina, and Dat. Chabad. Chochmah is the right brain, Bina is the left brain, and Dat is the middle brain. And this is, now we're going to go on a journey, and he's going to explain to us in general what Chochmah, Bina, and Dat is, and then go into a lot of detail as well. So in the second paragraph that we studied, he talks about what is the difference between Chochmah and Bina. Okay, so I'm going to show you my summary of that paragraph, and we'll go through it. I suggest that you don't write. If you want to copy this definition, you can come back to the video. Try and just listen. I'm also not going to be reading exactly what I'm saying. I'm going to be paraphrasing. So he says, okay, I need to explain to you what is Chochmah and Bina. So first of all, there's a definition. And I wrote the definition in Hebrew because basically, I'll show you a little bit later. Basically, what he does is he gives you a definition that in the beginning, you can't understand. Because it's like a code. So let's leave the definition for a moment, and we'll come back to the definition and understand the definition after we've seen the examples. So then he gives an example. He gives a general example. He says, when a person looks at something and grasps it in a general way in his mind, he can't relate it to a friend because he doesn't have knowledge of its particular qualities and details. So he's saying, you know, when we look at something in a glance, b'derech klal, in a general way, you're not going to be able to share it with somebody because you just you got the general idea of it, but you're not going to be able to share it because you don't really know the details of it and the particular qualities. So he gives a specific example now. When a person sees a beautiful building, he immediately senses the beauty in his mind, but the reason for the beauty, which is found in the many details of the structural composition, etc., the colors and the combinations, he doesn't grasp that. Therefore, he cannot relate the essential nature of its beauty to another. In contrast, when he does grasp its quality with all its details, then he will automatically grasp the reason for the beauty, which is the composition of all its details and the colors, the combinations. Therefore, he's able to relate to his friend because he can enclose it in the letters of speech. However, regarding seeing alone, which is b'derech klal, like in a general way, which is above the level of letters, he won't be able to convey the matter to his friend. Okay, so basically we see here that that first glance is when you experience it in the right brain. It's almost like that sensing. You sense the beauty of something in your right brain. But in order to be able to enclose it in letters, which means to give words to it, to express it. You know, we've all had this experience where you kind of say, you just had to be there. You have to see it. I can't explain why it was so amazing. But that process of putting something into words is what the left brain is about. So the right brain is really about images. C is about seeing, and the left brain is more about letters and articulation, speech. Okay, so then what he does is he goes back and he takes this definition, which we didn't look at, and he puts it back into the specific example. So he says here, look, Chokhmah is the sensing and insight of the essential beauty. So the Chokhmah, the right brain, is you sense the beauty. But then the Bina is the understanding of the reason for the beauty, which is not the actual essence of the beauty. Okay, the language is a little bit difficult here, but just bear with me. The Bina, it's drawn down from the expression of the conceptualization of the essence of the beauty, and it's become like a garment for it. So, you know, you lose something in the process of bringing it from Chokhmah to Bina. In Chokhmah, you experience the beauty of something. Now you have to enclose it in letters, and you lose something. It's not, you lose the essence of it. But there's an advantage to it because you can communicate it. But it's become like a garment for the essence of the beauty. So this is Chokhmah and Bina in the world of action. So is that clear to everybody? Just okay, I'm going to assume it is. Let me see where.
Sorry, can I just clarify? I think Neria, that when you were speaking just a bit before, you mentioned that that in fact I wrote it down. You mentioned that Chachma was the left brain, Bina the right brain, but I think it's the other way around. You're explaining it now as if Chachma is the right brain.
Sorry, I said that. Chokhmah is the right brain and Bina is the left brain.
Yeah. Thank you. No, don't be sorry. I was confused by it. Now it's clear.
Can I just confirm something? Is Bina directly connected with action? The world of action, you said.
Is Bina connected with the world of action? You know, this is an example of how Bina, Chokhmah and Bina functions in the world of action. I wouldn't say that Bina is the world of action. I'm not sure that I understand your question, Miriam. Can you try to articulate it a bit again?
I'll just carry on. I'll get there. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may attempt to understand the question, I think the question is, we ended up, Neria ended up the end of the paragraph, not the end of the paragraph, the end of the middle of the paragraph, that this is how we understand it in the world of Asiya, in the world of action. Yeah, so we're discussing Chokhmah and Bina and how it relates to the world of action, how we see that relationship in the world of action. There is a relationship between Chokhmah and Bina, and it presents itself on many different levels. We are trying to understand what Chokhmah and Bina stand for, so later on we could actually identify it on other levels, meaning we want to understand the mechanism of how Chokhmah and Bina work in the world of Asiya, in this physical world. We see the same relationship in the world of Midas when we make decisions. We also see the same, the way Chokhmah and Bina relate almost in any level, right? It's not only presenting in the world of action. Now, I think the question was arised whether the Bina is the world of action. No, it's Bina is a thought. If we could jump a little bit ahead, Bina is the world of thoughts. It corresponds to the world of Bria, and it's a world of thought. We also have Midas. That's where our emotions and the decision making takes place. That corresponds to the world of Yetzirah. And then we take actions on the thoughts and decisions that we make, and this is the world of action. Yeah.
Okay. So the last thing that I want to just show you in relation to that is the definition of Chochmah and Bina. Now, in the introductory lesson, I said that what he does, what Reb Hillel does, is he gives us examples, but he also gives us like the code, kind of like the computer code. So this definition of Chochmah and Bina is kind of like the code. And it's worthwhile to learn this because these are concepts that are coming up constantly. So Chochmah, yeah, Haskalat etzem ha'inyan bilti bechinet hidlapshut be'otiot klal. For those who don't read Hebrew very well, here it is in the English. And this is the term, Haskalat etzem ha'inyan, which is the definition of Chochmah. What does it mean? It's kind of difficult to say exactly what it is. Haskalat means it's the first place where there's a process of intellectualization. It's in your brain. So it's still an intellectual process, even though it's the right brain. And etzem is essence, and inyan is the matter. So Chochmah is the intellectual perception of the essence of the matter, bilti bechinet hitlapshut be'otiot klal, without manifesting or without being enclosed in in letters at all. So that's the definition of, and it would be worthwhile to try and this is going to be shared on the Google Drive, and you can have a look at it. And then Bina, what happens is hitlapshut, you enclose this haskalat etzem ha'inyan, the chochmah, bisfara niglet, the bechinas otiot. So you enclose the intellectual perception of the essence of the matter, which is the chochmah, in revealed explanations in the aspect of letters, of articulation. So that's kind of the code behind it. And that is, I don't know, intellectual if you want, but literally it's the code. So Bina has letters, Chochmah is above letters. There's no articulation yet. It's just more light than Kalim. The letters are Kalim. And you have this is an important phrase, Haskalat etzem ha'inyan. Okay.
Okay, can I ask a question? I had this conception of what Bina was from the first paragraph, where it says it's not external listening, it's an internal listening, and the two nuns that I envisioned as the nuns dig deep, as getting to a place that's beyond just where the intellect can be, and just like letting go of preconceived ideas, in the same way that if you're truly listening to another human being, you let go of your ego. So there's that empty vessel. So I don't know if this is just something that I made up based on my prior experience, but I don't know I'm not sure how that fits in, because or if that's just what's being said here is just in the world of Asiya. So I tuned in before. I guess I missed a little bit of the beginning. You were saying, but everything comes through the intellect. So am I off base here?
I'll tell you something. I mean, this is my knee-jerk response. Maybe Mila will have another response. When Mila and I learned this text, we learned it. We had a teacher, there were 10 of us sitting around a table, and we had a teacher who was very, very hard on us. And one of the things that he taught us is he said, don't try to refrain from making too many, I don't know, connections. He used the word bechein. What is bechein, Mila? Like
Yeah,
like
bechein is conclusion.
a conclusion
Mm.
based on what I know before, and which is basically, Nechama, even in your words, that's what you're saying. And what happens when we do that? Because I think as women, that is our tendency. Our tendency is we always want to, that's why we don't study Gemara. We just want to know, like, what's the
Bottom line.
the bottom line? And really, that's not what this is about. Because what happens is when you do that, you never learn anything new. You never learn anything new because we always just saying, oh, I know it's this and it's that. And we doing it based on our previous knowledge. Now, obviously, to some extent, we use our previous knowledge to understand what we're learning. It's just natural. But try to stay with the text. Just stay with the text. Don't, because what you're saying now, maybe it's right, maybe it's not right. It doesn't even matter, but it's not something that he's spoken about at all. So try to really just stay with the text and go deep into his words and don't add.
Mhm.
He's going to make it hard enough for you without you having to add anything.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that when I was thinking about this and conceptualizing and drawing it on paper, I realized I was contradicting myself because I said you let go of everything you knew before, and here I was like plugging things that whatever you learned in meditation or just in other contexts. But when you stick to the text, do you run the risk of just staying in the part of the intellect that's logic, just staying in the words? Because my sense is that we want to go beyond the words.
Well, the thing is that, you know what, let me share this screen with you that I was going to share with you later. See if I could find it. 1 moment. All right. And then I think we'll move on. So this is the Frierdiker Rebbe describing this process. The essence of diligent learning is to review one idea many times until it's clear to you in all of its details, its detail of details, until you are able to speak about it, describing it with clear articulation. And after you know the concept well, until it's clear to you in all of its details, and you can speak about it at length, then dafka, gaze on it in depth with intellectual effort. This will bring you to the unity of your consciousness with the concept, and then you will find the delight of your soul through the unification of your intellect and the concept itself. So I want to break this down very quickly. He's basically saying that there are 3 or 4 stages. The first one is just to learn the details until you can speak about it at length. Literally, you can describe it to yourself or to somebody else. You can talk about it. And then only you sit and you gaze at it. Now, I can't tell you, I can tell you how I do that, but you really have to find your own way of doing that. But you can only really do that if you know it. I wouldn't say memorize. It's not word by word memorizing, but it is a kind of memorizing. Mila, would you agree? You have to know it.
Right. I think the essence of the question of Nechama, the way I see it is, Nechama, correct me if I understood you correctly, that you notice that in the first paragraph, he's mentioning about the inner ear, and automatically we understand that it's a deeper perception of things. And in the second paragraph, at least in the beginning, we're understanding that it's only it's not the essence, but it's only the way it's being enclosed in letters, correct? So here we go, you have a contradiction. Which one is it true? Now, to answer specifically your question is that, and I'm going to kind of combine it with the way Nuria answered it, we are too early, it's too premature to derive any bechein from it. We don't really understand. But it's amazing that you have noticed that difference. And he's going to do that very often, is that we're looking at the first paragraph, we understanding from the first paragraph that Bina, it's something deeper and beyond. And for this reason, the mitzvah of knowing God is given us with Bina. And at the same time, the way he's laying it down, right, in his explanation, all of a sudden we see that the Bina is actually a secondary to Chachma. Now, why is he doing it? He is actually intensifying the question. The second paragraph, we understand that he's intensifying his question, why Bina and not Chachma? And you are sensing it, Nechama. And that's beautiful because that's exactly why he's doing it, right? So he asked the question that the Chachma is actually higher than Bina, why Hashem is choosing the mitzvah of knowing him to be given with Bina. This is his third question, right? And this is what it is. Yeah, we have a seeming contradiction, right? Later on, he's going to explain at length, and where we're going to see how Bina has advantages. But right now, he's not doing it. So we have to have our patience and our bittul of allowing him to bring us to that conclusion and show us how Bina actually able to reach levels that are unreachable, even with Das, beyond Das, even with Chachma. And we need to be patient because he has a plan, right? So we need to step back and allow him to see his process. And this is something I will share in general, the way I learn. I allow whoever is, whoever work I'm reading, whether it's, Rebbeim, whether this is Rebbe Hillel, just to remove myself and the way I understand things, and just allow another person to talk, right? Because the only way I'll be able to understand what that person is trying to do is that I'm not going to mix in my view to it. Yeah, because then it's not interesting. Then I won't be able to actually understand the thought process of that other person. And a lot of times I've noticed when I learn it with people, learning it anything, is that people really want to see what's the bottom line, what information I need to know. Now, it's not about information. It's about studying a thought process. And the process is more important than the information. Because I'm sure you've noticed that, for example, the concept of Purim, right? If you're going to make your research in all the Ma'amarim and Sichis, there is probably 100 and 100 Ma'amarim discussing the same idea. And we might wonder, you really need 100 Ma'amarim to tell us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? But no, okay. On one hand, no, if we are referring to information. You're right, intellectual information, all what you need to do is to write a Hasidic encyclopedia. And that's it. You don't need to have 100 Ma'amarim. You're going to study one book that's going to tell you Chachma is this, Bina is this, Das is this, da-da-da, and that's it. And you know it. You don't need to have 100 of Ma'amarim. The reason why the 100 Ma'amarim are describing is because they're not just giving us information, but they're giving us a thought process. And by studying the thought process and understanding how one comes from another, we are refining our thought process, the thought process of our animal soul, of our intellectual soul. So later on, when we are confronted with different things in our life, hopefully that thought process is going to be hardwired in our brain, and we're going to come to the conclusions that the Rebbe would come. And that's where the refinement is taking place, is when we actually review the material over and over to the point that it becomes hardwired. Now, it's not about studying the information, it's the thought process. It's how the Rebbe came to that conclusion in the end of the Maimer. And that's why doing summaries or doing mind maps. Are we up to that, Nuria? I think, yeah. Can we share? Okay, so let me share my screen and my little summary. We're gonna go, okay. Let's go. So as I said in that little video, I use this program called Kugel. I know some of you had a little difficulty. If you want to master this program, we could definitely meet maybe at another time and I could show you how this works. But this is basically what I did. Everybody could see my screen? Yeah? Good? Okay. So what I did is that I first, where did you go? I'm sorry. I first summarized how am I going to color code it. Okay, I want a statement to be in this beautiful blue, and questions in this pink, and answers in green, and a mashal that he's going to give in purple. And you don't need to follow this logic. You could just do whatever you want, any color, right? So why do I do that? Is that, you know, for me, for my visual perception, I really want to see like that, that map that I could very clearly identify where the questions are just by colors alone. And if we're going to do a little summary here, we see that he begins with the statement of Shema Yisrael, and he brings right away the Rambam. Now, why did I put the Rambam on the side? Because he didn't have to bring the Rambam, right? The Rambam is a little bit like a clarification of why he is obsessed with this concept of Shema. And we see, you know, the Rambam, he brings two halachis, which is the foundation of all foundations and pillar of all wisdom, to know that there's God, and he makes all of existence to exist. And then in the seventh halacha, we need to know that God is one. And then we're going to go back to the, you know, the mainstream of this, of the flow. We also need to understand that Shema is understanding. He's clarifying that, right? It's not just physical hearing, but the spiritual power of the soul in the ear. And then he says, from this statement, he moves back to the side again and asks three questions. We need to understand what is his bonanus, why his bonanus was with double nun, and why bina and not chachma. So these are the three main questions. Then he says, okay, in order for us to understand these things, these three questions, I'm going to go back and we're going to discuss the three parts of mind. Okay? And so far we covered chachma and bina. When he was describing chachma of bina, he brought two mashalim. Mashal number one is a beautiful building. Why is it beautiful? Would be the question of bina. The fact that it is beautiful will be the question of chachma. And to make it simple, chachma answers the question, what? What is it? Okay, it's koach ma. Ma is what? It's beautiful. Or maybe, perhaps, it's ugly, right? These statements of what is the question of chachma. Why is the question, or how is the question of bina? How is it beautiful? Why is it beautiful? These are the questions of bina, right? If we find ourselves, if we derive a little b'chein out of what we've learned up until now, right? If we allow ourselves, if we see ourselves as question why, how come? These are the questions of bina when we're trying to understand how things work, not the facts. Yeah, the facts are what? Now, the second mashal, which we're going to be studying now, is the mashal of the Talmudic discussion. Now, he is upgrading us. He's first giving us a very physical mashal of we see things in this physical world. He's bringing us something which everybody else can relate to. We all have seen beautiful things. We've all seen into we all experienced when we are at awe with something and we are unable to describe because the experience was so awesome. And when we tried to explain it, we actually used a lot of details. Oh, specifically with the building. I mean, this is one of the beautiful historic synagogues, and I really find this beautiful. The synagogue. And if we could just look at it, like what really makes this beautiful building, let's imagine we really need to maybe create a replica of that building or whatever that is. So we're explaining it to a friend about our experiences. And at that moment, our camera broke. That's actually what happened to me when I was visiting Lubavitch 2 summers ago. No, actually this summer. And I smashed my phone in the car when I was closing the door. That's it. I couldn't take any pictures. And I was really actually remembering this passage in Shara Yechud, where like I had to express my experience with my words. What was it like? And my kids were very curious. They were a little bit upset that I did not that I smashed my camera and I really didn't have any pictures. I only managed to take a couple of pictures with my laptop. That was it. And the rest was just experiencing, like our grandparents used to, hold us and tell us all the stories that, they experienced, without cameras or anything like that. So I think we're ready to jump into our the second paragraph, the second part of the second paragraph. Anybody has any questions pertaining to this mind map? No? Is it clear? I mean, your mind map doesn't have to be this. Yeah, Sabine.
I'd love to know the name of the app again, and yes, I would love to learn it.
Oh, sure. It's Kuggle. You see this little thing here? It's
Oh,
COGG.
Got it.
Kuggle, whatever you call it. Yeah.
Beautiful. It's
It's a Google
gorgeous. Thank you.
program. Yeah, it's a Google program. I think I pay like $5 a year for it.
Wonderful.
And it saves. Yeah. The only reason you could do like this on Canva, the only reason why I like the Kuggle is that it gives me this unlimited space, you see? So I could just draw a very, big diagrams, without limit. It's unlimited. So I like the fact that it's unlimited, because with Canva, they give you a specific page size and you constantly have to resizing it. Let's say if you're growing bigger, then you have to resize everybody. And it's just a lot of this little nitty-gritty work. And it's like having, what do you call it? The Bina program is Google Sheets, right? The sheets are also unlimited. You could do as many, the sheets have unlimited only to the left and to the bottom, right? This one is in all 4 directions unlimited. So that's why it's a little bit, okay. Great. So I'm gonna stop my share. And sorry, excuse me for my congestion, but I guess me and Neria picked up some some virus. Okay.
Mila, just
Sure.
before you go into the text, I just want to do a little mind experiment with people just to prepare them for the text. So I want you to just think of a time when you just knew that you were right about something, but you couldn't explain it. You couldn't justify it with reasons, but you knew absolutely that you were correct. And then later you found out, maybe later you found out why. Does that sound familiar? You can think of
I think as women, we have too many moments like that.
I'll give you an example of something that happened for me. We needed to move out of the house where we were living in Telstone in Israel, and we were looking for apartments in Jerusalem. And we saw this one apartment that my husband said, it's great. They renovated it so beautifully. It was a lot of light. There was a huge bay window with a massive tree, just things that you don't find in Jerusalem. And he said, like, it's a good price. Everything's perfect. And I said, this is not our house. This is not for us. And I couldn't say why. And we kept going back and have a looking at it. And eventually I just had to say, like, the only thing that I could say is, when I walk in, I feel lonely. Because I didn't have a reason. And when we did find a place, I understood what it was about that place that was wrong for us. Because we found a place where we're part of a community. And that place was not part of a community. We would have been very isolated. So I'm sure you all have that kind of experience. And this is what Mila is going to be describing. Although it's in the terms of a Talmudic discussion, which can be a little bit intimidating, but try to just listen to the details, where you'll see the rabbi he's making a psak, and he can't justify it. He says that I know that this is right. I can't give you the reason for it, but I know that it's right. Okay, Mila.
Okay, let's go. Yeah, everybody could see my screen? Okay, so up until now, we saw the building and the sensing the beauty, and actually being able to describe why the building is so beautiful. Now we're going to move to discussions. Now, we all know, I'm going to give a little understanding, is that in Gemara in general, all the sugyas is a little part that discuss a particular theme or subject. Usually looks like this. You know, this one said this. You know, there are rabbis that opposed it. Then they might bring a statement from a previous generations, how it was done, a witnessing or, you know, testimony, and then, you know, recalibration and reassessing of the, you know, different statement. And it could go back and forth, especially if you studied with Rashi and Tosfos. It really could become a very complicated, and you really need to keep the logic going. Now, this is one of those discussions. We're really not going to go into the details of the actual matter, what the actual halachic question was, although we might touch it. In your English translation, footnote 23 and 24 actually discusses at length what the discussion was, and so on and so forth. We're going to keep it brief for the reason, because we're bringing this Talmudic discussions not to study the actual Talmudic discussion, because this is not a Talmud class. However, we're bringing this back in order to see the relationship between Chochmah and Bina, and this is why Rabbi Hillel is actually bringing it down. Yeah, and we could see that in many, you know, numerous occasions, and even in our personal experience. Let's move on. V'hine kol ze hu bechinas chochma ubina b'sechel de'asiya. Right? V'al derech ze yuvan gam ken beis bechinas the chochma ubina b'sechel shebemides shui inyan ha'hoira b'davar ma. However, this is the same way we may understand the aspect of wisdom, right, which is the chochma, and understanding bina in the intellect of emotion. And I do have, this is already an explanation. I do, people might think like, what Chochmah and Bina have to do with midas, and what midas are? The way we know midas, we usually think about them as an emotional. And when we think about emotion, we usually think about being happy or depressed, being vulnerable, or being worthy or unworthy, and all that stuff. And as women, Baruch Hashem, we are very much aware of our emotions, and we tend to be, you know, focusing on that a lot, which is nothing wrong with that. But when we specifically mean here the word midas, the terminology of midas, we usually mean decision making. Are we moving forward with that, or we're not moving forward with that? That's all. And is this as kosher or not kosher? Is this as allowed or not allowed? What are we doing? Are we buying the house or we're not buying the house? This is what midas. What in the world of Chassidus, when we mean midas, we usually mean chesed or gevura. Chesed, I'm moving forward. Yeah, the water, it's coming towards me. Bina, gevura is no. Gevura is like I'm withholding my hashpah. That's what gevura means. We're later on going to go and study about chesed and gevura in more details. But this is in general what this means. Chesed, I'm moving, yeah, as the water is moving towards us. Gevura is fire, is withholding hashpah. And then we later on going to go into difference, of what tiferes is. And then we have netzach. Again, netzach is moving forward. I'm conquering. And hod, I'm holding on my ground. I'm not doing, it's the absence of moving forward. And so on and so forth. So in this particular passage, we're going to be seeing in the seichel of the midas, meaning in the brain of midas, right? Whether to do or not to do, we see the same relationship of bina and chachma. So just that a little introduction. But alderach ze yuvan gam ken beis bechinas dechub b'sechel shebemides shui inyan ha'ira b'davar ma. Yuvan mimasha matinu b'maseches beisa b'rav kahana v'rav ashi. Okay, shehukshu l'rav. Now we see there is a situation in Maseches Beitza that Talmud discusses that there were two rabbis. Okay. The name was Rav Kahana and Rav Ashi, that they brought to Rav, is another rabbi, it's a third rabbi, a question. What was the question? Kima ben zeh le'egel shenolad min hatreifa. What's the difference between this and between a little calf that is born from treifa? Ushtik Rav, and Rav was quiet. What does this mean? Let's go, in order for us to understand this whole thing, we need to understand what the question was. The question was that somebody gave, the Rav gave a ruling that the egg, which is born from a chicken, is muktzah. It's considered to be noilad, goes into the category of nolad, and it cannot be used on Yom Tov. That was it. Now, these two rabbis, right, Rav Kahana and Rav Ashi, they came over and they said, well, it doesn't make sense. Why? Because the calf, which is born from treifa, right? Treifa is not kosher. It's an animal that became wounded to the point that it's not kosher for consumption. That calf is allowed to be eaten and slaughtered on Yom Tov. Why the egg is not allowed to be? That was it. That was the question. Meaning they brought something very similar, and the Rav was shtik Rav, meaning the Rav was quiet. But at the same time, although he did not provide them with explanation, afal pi kein, nevertheless, lo hoida lahem v'lo chazar miharoisei. He did not explain them what's the reasoning behind. At the same time, he did not withdraw his ruling, meaning he didn't say, actually, you know what? You brought a very valid point. Yeah, I'm nullifying my psak din, which is truly happens. But at the same time, he didn't do it. He still kept his psak din valid, and at the same time, he did not provide much explanation. So this is a discussion. Now, what happens later? Later, something very interesting comes. Umashelo hashivam Now Rabbi Hillel is explaining the fact that he did not give them an answer, an explanation. Hainu mipnei shahaya haskalat hadin nirgesh etzlo b'mocho. He says the fact that he did not give the explanation is because the essence of this halacha, of this particular din, was felt in his brain. Okay, bebechinas ri'iyah de chachma, in a vision of chachma, and this is another key word here. It was a vision of chachma. Bilvad lemala mibchinas oisies. This was above the enclosement of the letters. He saw the halacha, how it should have been. And that's why lachein la hayayachal shivam. Therefore, he wasn't able to give this lengthy explanation. What's the reasoning behind it? Exactly. Now, remember the key word of why. Why is it so? He wasn't able to say. He just knew that this is how it is, meaning he knew what it is. Ma. That means he was on the level of chachma that had a vision of how things are. But why they are so, he didn't know. Now we have a fourth rabbi, okay? His name is Rabbi Bar Nechemia. So Rabbi Bar Nechemia looked at it differently. Because he was able, shehisig hara hanal b'moach binasai, because he was able to understand and grasp this teaching in his mind of Bina, lachein matza tam v'zvar lazeh. Therefore, he was able to find the reasoning and explanation for this din, for this halacha. And what was it? And he was actually the one who was able to explain to these two guys, to these two rabbis, why this was so. Shehu masha amar muchan agav imai, that the calf already ready in his mother's womb. What does this mean? So his reasoning, right, was like this. The calf, let's say if the calf would be born a day before, would we still see the same calf? Yes, that was his reasoning. Meaning the fact that now Yom Tov entered, it's not really goes into the category of Noilat, because Noilat, it became like that during Yom Tov. When we're talking about an egg, the outer shell of an egg usually creates within just a few hours. Therefore, it's considered to be nolad. Nolad meaning it actually was formed inside the chicken during Yom Tov. That's why an egg becomes muktzah. However, the calf is not. Why? Because if, let's say, the calf could be born healthy and well and all content even a week before the birth, meaning it was already formed inside the mother. So now Rabbi Bar Nechemia was able to understand this. And therefore, he gave them an explanation why this is the halacha, where the Rav wasn't able to. Why? Because he was only able to gaze at it from the Bina, from the Chachma perspective, sorry, and he was able to see the concept, not necessarily know why this is the ruling. The same way how the person sees the beautiful building and says it's beautiful, but he doesn't know why it is beautiful. So that's exactly the same experience happened to Rav, where he saw the concept, he saw the halacha, that this is how, right? The same way how we're not going to be saying like, oh, I really cannot describe you why this building is beautiful, therefore the building is not beautiful. We can't say that, right? We're still going to hold our ground and say, no, this building was beautiful. I just cannot explain you why. So the same thing is with him. He sees the halacha. He sees the truth of the halacha. He sees the etzem haskalat ha'inyan. He sees the essence of this concept. At the same time, it's above that, above the letters, above the enclosement of letters, where the Rabbi Bar Nechemia was able to grasp and understand why it is so. And therefore, he was able to explain to these two guys that why is it so. Okay? So let's continue. Okay, v'zvara zois, and this explanation, hu levush le'etzem haskala. It becomes like a garment to the essence of the concept. V'nikra bechinas bina, and this is the aspect of bina. V'lechein nikra chachma bechinas ayin legabe bina. And now he's making a very interesting ruling, and therefore the chachma is like the state of ayin, which it's a concept on its own, compared to bina. What is the concept of ayin? Okay, machmas hu shu lemala mebchinas oisies. Because of this relationship that it's higher than letters. Yeah, letters, it's something tangible. Letters is something that we actually able to express to others. What is that? We're really looking at. But this is the reason behind things. However, the actual concept becomes ayin. Now, don't get caught up with this word of ayin. It is a very, very deep concept, and we're going to be really spending a lot of time on describing it. Let's. The goal of this passage is really understanding the relationship between Chachma and Bina, even when it comes to such a refined concept of making a decision, right? It's not something tangible. It's why we make decisions. It's something, an internal fact. It's not just a beautiful building. It's something that actually happens inside of us. Okay, chuloi. Ach, afal pikei nikra chachma b'chinas yesh legabe lemala min hachachma. Mashakaso v'chachma mi'ayin timatze. V'hina kol hanal hu beizu b'chinas the chachma ubina. Now, he's giving us a very interesting rule, a theory of relativity, right? Everything is relative. It's true that relative to Bina, Chachma is Ayin, because Bina is Yesh. But compared to something which is above Chachma, now Chachma becomes Yesh, and that level becomes Ayin. Right? And here we go. This is a very classical Reb Hillel, where he says, you know what? You think you understood something? Well, you didn't. Okay, and I'll show you how. And this is interesting because that provides a mind to be more flexible, because our physical mind likes to cement things and likes to put things in a nice, beautiful box and on a nice, beautiful shelf. And Reb Hillel says, no, no, no. I just told you that Chachma was Yesh. I'm sorry, Bina was Yesh and Chachma was Ayin. Well, you know what? It's to a certain extent when we are just discussing these two levels and the relationship between them. Oh, we want to discuss Chachma and the level above Chachma. It works differently. Now Chachma becomes Yesh, and Bina and that level which is above Chachma becomes Ayin. Okay, and it's beautiful because you never could say something with 100% certainty, because it might come another idea that could completely crash your understanding of that. But now, does that mean that we have to live in anxiety that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow? No. We can own what we know right now. And this is the beauty of it, is that whatever we understand up until now becomes ours. And the more we own things, the more simcha we're going to get, because the more bina we have, the more simcha we have. And the more chachma we have, the more oneg we're going to have. And these are the yichudim that we, going to study a little bit later. Okay, so I'm just, laying it out there for you so you understand that it's a pleasurable experience. Okay, so this is it. This is the passage. And what we're going to do now is...
Mila?
Yes.
I just want to get a sense from people if that was clear, or if you could maybe just paraphrase it, like go over it and just say it in your own words, what the psak was, what the situation was, just in a couple sentences.
Sure. So to paraphrase it is basically he's discussing about the decision-making in halacha specifically. And two rabbis present a question to a rav, and they actually challenge his decision. he makes a decision that an egg is muktzah. And they say, well, if you say the egg is muktzah, there's another ruling that the calf that is born from treifa is not muktzah. How is that not similar? That's the challenge. And he remains faithful to his psak din. At the same time, he doesn't bring them an explanation. Now, there is Rabbi Ber Nehemiah, on the other hand, understands it, the reasoning why, and he provides them with explanation. So this is the relationship of Chachma and Bina. The fact that, you know, our feeling of truth of a particular concept, and beyond the feeling of truth, we actually could see the emes in it, right? We are very, very clear, because in Chachma, as Neria pointed out, there is a lot of light. A lot of light is clarity, right? We're not walking in darkness. We make that decision because we are so clear about it. Moreover, when we are being challenged, why this decision is like that, we are not backing off. We would back off if we wouldn't have clarity, but we are persistent. We're like, no, this is what it is, meaning we have clarity in that decision. However, we do not really able to provide why. And the why comes from our bina. The why comes from us really understanding the details and being able to really enclose it in the letters. And we're going to see where Rabbi Hillel is taking us with this information, is that he's going to actually bring us into this space where the reasoning behind why, and why we're able actually to grasp ideas and enclose it in letters and explain it to others, actually will force us to go deeper into where that light of the decision was coming in the first place. Yeah, I hope this is, you know, a fair summary. And we pretty much have about 20 minutes to our class, and we wanted to go on breakout rooms, and Nuria will enlighten us what exactly we're going to do there.
Okay. So first of all, in order to go to the breakout room, you do need to press accept, correct? You need to
Yes.
press a button in order to go in. And what we're going to do is you're going to go to a breakout room for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back into the class and we'll do some sharing. So in the breakout room, you can decide to do one of two things. Either you can choose to try to work on a summary of what we've just learned now about the Talmudic discussion, or you can choose to talk about what we did in paragraph 2 about the building, and just to speak that out. So those are really the two options. But the idea is really just to be in the process of speaking, because as the Frierdiker Rebbe says, this is part of the process, is to speak it out. And for those people who are listening to the recording, you know, I'd suggest that at this point you stop the recording and you speak, you know, you just speak it out as well. You say, you know, what you've learned. All right, so we're going to put you into the breakout rooms.
Yeah, it's very, very important that we're able actually to reiterate what we have just understood with another person. And the more we have that discussion, in a way actually teach it to another person. The more we have that discussion, the more it sinks in by us. And this is an enormous benefit. Okay, so we'll see you in 10 minutes. We have 5 breakout rooms. When you see your name pop up, you just need to accept that breakout room, and good luck. And we'll see you in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes.
All right. So what was wonderful about it? Who said that?
I said it's
Yeah.
just such beautiful women. Nice interchange.
Okay. You know, last time I think we did 2 people in a room, and this time it's more like 5 people in a room. Which one worked better for you? Anybody want to say?
Well, there's richness. Every person adds a richness. So I guess you just have more money in your account when have a few people together, no?
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. The more, the better.
All right. So then we'll stick to this.
Well, actually, we had 2 people in our group and it was very nice.
Okay, good. So it works both ways.
Yeah, because if you have less people, you have more of a chance to talk.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
do.
I would like to say that if there are going to be more people in the room, like 4 or 5, then we need more time.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Is
So
everybody on WhatsApp group that are right now
No.
participating in this meeting?
I'm not on the WhatsApp group.
You know.
None
I'm
either.
not on the WhatsApp group.
So maybe you want to join the WhatsApp group. We sent out an email. Maybe we should send out an email with a recording after this meeting for everybody to join. We could take a poll there. And maybe we could create 2 types of groups. Those that would like to have, 4 and up, like 4 to 5 people. And then we could manually assign. So this way we'll cater kirtzon ish v'ish. That's what it is, right? Based on the desire of everybody. So everybody feels comfortable. If you like, groups of 2, or you like groups of 4 or 5, and it really depends on your personal style.
Or maybe we'll just sometimes do it this way and sometimes do it that way.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, you could do that. I would suggest not more than 3, though.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think 4 gets a little, doesn't really give the time. You want everyone to have a chance to speak. That's hard with.
So would anybody like to give feedback on questions that arose or insights, anything that you'd like to share?
Could I just ask, I hope it's a very quick question. It's a quick question and you could say the answer a different time. So I'm understanding wait, your answer is yes, I can ask it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so am I getting it right that the learning of Shari Yichud is a totally different way of learning? Because I know Shira Malka used to scream at me all the time, like, just read the text. And I say, what is this, Aleph-based practice? And so is it that it's kind of like when you go to whatever, Feldenkrais class, instead of they say, you want to stretch, and they said, don't stretch, just, it's a completely different way of doing it. So in learning Shari Yichud, I have to resist my desire to make associations and all that other stuff and just hold myself in and just follow the text.
Yeah. I'll tell you what it is, Saratova. It's not that you should not derive any practical application. I do know people who actually Shari Yichud help them to cook. I know, it's like, oh my gosh, how can Shari Yichud help somebody to cook? I think it's let's look at it this way. Remember the Sicha of the Rebbe. Why are we doing this? Right? The Sicha talks about avodah samoichin bifnei atzma. This is avodah samoichin that we are doing it for the sake of knowing God. Period. It's not for the sake of me learning how to cook. It's not for the sake of me learning how to become a better Jew. It's not for the sake of me keeping halachos or anything like that. Although all this may come as a result of it. You see the difference?
Yeah.
It's not that I'm specifically gearing my learning so I can be a better teacher, or I'm gearing my learning so I'm going to be this and that. The Rebbe is really telling us that we can learn now differently the way we learned before. If differently we had this avodah of avodas amides, right? And we know that avodas amidas is a very, very hard job. It's working on amidas. It's really refining them. It's because Torah demands of us a very high level of refinement. And if you read, the halachis of Lashon Hara, the halachis of Avas Israel, I mean, and the way how we should be relating to another Jew, and even to Gentiles, it's really like, who can stand with that? Yeah. And on the level of machshava, even, we shouldn't be thinking bad about other people. And throughout all the generations of Golos, we really have been busy refining our emotions. And in that sikha, Rebbe says very clearly, it's like, that's it, it's over. What do you mean it's over? Now, does this mean that we can just, be animalistic to other Jews? No, that's not exactly what the Rebbe is saying. The Rebbe is saying that how to achieve that is different now. If before the gates were kind of closed and we found people who did avodas hamoichin and it did not reflect it in the tachtonim, right, in the lower worlds, we saw tzaddikim who suffered, and so on and so forth. The Rebbe says now it's different. Now, more than ever, we can actually embrace the avodah of geula, where we could just go up without thinking of bringing it down. And this is where the revolutionary approach comes into play, where I don't have to worry how it will land. I don't have to worry to draw down a conclusion. All what I need to do is have a kavana that I'm doing this to know God, and that's it. And the rest will follow. My midas are going to be automatically refined, and the Rebbe promises that in that sikha. And therefore, this is very fundamental. Don't take our word
Can you
for it.
repeat the last three words because the computer froze, I think.
Oh, what did you hear?
No, we heard everything.
That we don't have to worry about the outcome
Yeah, we don't have to
or
worry
how it comes
about
down.
how it
And
will
then
land.
what'd you say
Don't
after
have-
that, if you do remember even?
Um,
You heard
in
everything?
that sikha, the Rebbe promises,
Oh,
in
okay,
that
so it's
sikha, the Rebbe
mine.
promises that
Okay.
we don't have to worry about our midas. Not only our personal midas, even the midas of others, the Rebbe says. We have to worry ach v'rak to know God. And that automatically will happen. Now, I can understand why that would happen, because what knowing God means to every one of us, that means that our awareness of God grows. What does this mean? That means that right now, I see the world as separate entities. I see the cup, I see, the lamp, I see computer, I see everybody separate. And this is the main issue of our Nefesh HaBahamis. And that's, I'll send you to a different Kuntrus Spilos of the Mittel Rebbe. Please, if you have time, you could study that. That's not for this particular discussion. However, when Nefesh HaBahamis sees the world divided, we all know that Hashem is in the world, but we don't see it. We don't see that connectivity. Now, what Shara Yichud provides is that shows us how the world is all connected with the essence of God. So the more I'm aware of it, and later on, if you stay with a study group beyond the first chapter, and we B'ezrat Hashem, plan on continuing. In later chapters, after the chapter 10, the Rebbe actually discusses how to do his bonus with the Seder Ishtalshalos, right? And the more we really allow ourselves and allow our mind to expand with this exceptionally lofty idea, I would say this is the loftiest idea that any human brain can ever encompass. If we could allow that to penetrate without pushing it and insisting on hanachis of this physical world and really allowing it to come in, then obviously there is no room for negativity, because Hashem is good. So if I'm aware that every detail of this world is connected with God, how can I make an Aveira? I don't have to work on my midas anymore, because my awareness and awareness of God being everywhere, Ein Od Milvado, is going to be infiltrated through every single cell of my body. Do you understand how it works? It works the other way around. The deeper I go into his bonanus, the more down it's going to come on its own. I don't have to do it. artificially. Before, because we were not able to go so deep into the hisbonenus because it was goals, therefore, we had to artificially work on amides based on the code of the Jewish law. Now we don't have to do it because everything is open. All channels are open for us to really delve deep. And this is what we should be doing. As the Rambam says, Umla ha'aret de'es Hashem, kamayim layam mechasim. Right? And this is what ultimately Geula means, is that the knowledge of God will cover the earth like the water covers the ocean bed. And meaning that what's in ocean bed, there's a complete immersion into that process.
So Mila, there's a question in the chat. Question came up in our group. How come Nehemiah knew how to explain the halacha while Rav couldn't?
That's an excellent question. That's exactly why Talmud could reach a higher level than the Mashpia. We're B'ezrat Hashem going to cover that. This is, in more chapters to come. So stick with us if you really want to have a detailed answer to this question.
Was Rav Nehemiah a student of Rav?
Yeah, he was a student.
Sorry, could I ask a favor? That speech you just gave about what we get from learning Shari Yuchid, if you could extract it and put it at the top of the WhatsApp group. So it was very great. It was great, amazing. And I have to hear it 50 times to really understand everything you said. If you could put it somehow at the top of the WhatsApp group so that we could listen to it whenever we want, as understanding or explaining to other people why we're learning Shari Yuchid, for me, it would be extremely helpful.
I'll tell you what it is.
Thank you. My thoughts exactly.
I'll tell you what it is. Ultimately, in another group that I'm in, there was a discussion about other modalities, other healing modalities, and why it is important to be there, and that it's open right now, and so on and so forth. I really feel compelled to deliver this message. It's a lot out there, but I think it's also very important to know that a true healing comes from Hashem. And the only reason why we do not experience a healing, or we could use another word for it, a bracha, in a particular area of our life, is usually because the godliness is not revealed in that area. It's not revealed for whatever reason. It's not flowing, right? The flow is really, kind of congealed in that area, right? The same way we all know from Rambam that sickness comes from blood not washing that area properly. That's where the sickness is coming. So how healing happens? Now, we could go and we could, go to all kinds of healers and all that stuff. But at the same time, we have to understand that any healer out there is really only can heal up to, the level of body and the nefesh habahamis. That's about it. They don't have access to our nefesh elokis, to our godly soul. They don't have access to our yechida. Right, and so therefore, it's kind of like a temporary bandage where we could put on a main issue. The main issue is that particular area is not being, the godliness is not revealed in that particular area. So when a person does his bonus, what ends up happening, one of the benefits of his bonus is that, especially in the Seder Ishtalshalos, which we're going to do much later, as we're going to get a hang of how to do his bonus and what his bonus is all about, is we literally take our consciousness and we go through the level in Seder Ishtalshalos, in the chain of the world, and really do his bonus on every single world out there. From Asiya to Yetzira to Bria, and Atzilus and beyond. And there is absolutely no way that we not going to bring down these levels of awareness and consciousness into this physical world. This is the result of it. This is how the ultimate healing takes place from a Torah perspective. When we hear all these beautiful stories about people going to the Baal Shem Tov, to all the Rebbeim, and all of a sudden miraculously healing, what that miracle was, we could demystify that miracle. Demystify is that the Rebbe was able to gaze into that person's neshama and reveal godliness in that particular area. This is what miracle is. Now, as a Chabad Chassid, the Rebbe said in the first Maimer of Bati Lagani is that the avoida is that we are actually should be doing it on our own and not always rely on the Rebbe to do it for us. So this is what this work is all about. So ultimate healing, we can heal ourselves by accessing everything what we already possess as Yidden. And his bonus is that process that takes us there on a conscious level and reaching beyond conscious. Not only subconscious, because subconscious is only on the level of body. And look how much we can derive information from all the healing about the subconscious. Can you understand when we're gonna reach our superconscious level, which is beyond that conscious level, on the level of our soul and the essence of our soul? This is where we're aiming. So so the question is, Nechama, what about a healer removing blocks to flow of godliness? So that healer is only the Rebbe for me so far. I have not met any healer, and first of all, they are incapable of doing it. They could tell you that they allow the flow, but there's no healer out there who could promise us to heal, removing blocks to flow of godliness. There's a natural flow that our body has that sometimes gets blocked. And all the healers out there, they could only reach that level, right? Maybe like, I don't know, the Kabbalists or, you know, the Rebbeim, they could deal with godliness, not anybody beyond that. They don't have access to it, so they can't really deal with it. They could deal with the levels of our nefesh, our bahamis, our body. This is where it ends.
Mila, I think that we should end for today.
Yeah, it's a little bit beyond our time frame. And thank you so much for joining, everybody.
And so next week, we're going to look at Das. So I'll post what the pages are, and you can do a preview just to prepare yourself. And we look forward to seeing everybody next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Toda raba raba.
Thank you.
Great.
you.
Beautiful.
Yes.